My name's Randy Knaflic, and I'm inspired by people who haven't yet found their path or haven't followed a traditional path, yet are quietly passionate about things that might surprise you.
All right, and welcome to the Lantern Podcast out of Good Cause Productions, a show that is produced and promoted by students right here at the University of Wisconsin-Green Bay. I'm your host, Dr. Ryan Martin, and I am super excited about our guest today. He's a UW Green Bay music alum who co-owns Storytelling with Data, where he leads strategy and operations alongside his wife, Cole, who is CEO and founder. Previously, he held leadership roles at Google, SpaceX, and Jawbone, and his career has taken him all over the world, from New York City to Zurich to LA, and now to Wisconsin. We were fortunate to have him and his wife Cole visit campus today, where they spoke to students and faculty, and where he did a keynote for our networking event titled Beyond Talent, Lessons from a Jazz Studies Alum for Students Who Want to Get Ahead. Please welcome Randy Knaflic.
I think we tend to gravitate toward things we know. So, of course, for me, I didn't follow a traditional path. I didn't necessarily know, where I was going. And so that sometimes can feel a bit unsettling. And so I always like it when I meet somebody and I'm a bit surprised that, oh, well, how did you end up doing this? And they start to share and I'm like, I get you. We're close. And I think often what you find with these people that you meet that really inspire you are the ones who there's something they'll suddenly tell you, like, I had no idea. And I can think of different times where I was just truly delighted that somebody had this passion around something that I didn't know. So I like this idea of kind of a quiet passion that excites or inspires you.
Excellent. So what are some of your quiet passions that inspire or excite you?
Well, I think I wear so many different hats that it depends. And I think early on when my background is in music, of course, but when I pivoted first into tech, this was probably back in the .com boom, I'll never forget that one of the tech companies that I was with at the time, this was during the boom when people had money to spend on lavish parties, and it was great. And I remember they were going to hire a DJ, and this drove me nuts, as most music majors would find this completely annoying. And I said, you know what, I could probably get you a band and be half the price and it'd be great. And of course, half the price was like an amazing amount of money. And so I went and I pretty much hired these incredible musicians. And I'm like, hey, I got a gig. Would you play for this? I'm like, yeah. And I played. And my favorite, this sort of quiet surprise was this holiday party was happening. People are walking in and here's Randy on the saxophone and people be like, and so that like surprise is super fun. And so for me, of course, depending on the setting, the people are surprised by the music. But I also think like I play in a big band in the Milwaukee area. And I don't think most of the guys know what I've done or where I've worked or some of the things that I've done, which is completely opposite of the music side, and that's completely fine. So I like these little surprises and delights, and when you find that in others, it's pretty neat too.
Excellent. Yeah. So let's talk about that journey, right? So from UWGB music student to I think was it Google first, then SpaceX, then Jawbone.
Yep.
Talk me through that. How did we move from UWGB music student to Google in the first place?
I think it's probably the number one question I get asked whenever I talk about the journey, but it never gets old. And I think it's probably not surprising that when you're at university and you're pursuing a degree, this is what you're going to do. And so I had grand visions of playing. When I knew that I had an opportunity to go to New York, I was going to be studying with the best people. And I did that. I got a chance to really be a part of something special from a music standpoint, and especially in New York was incredible. But after graduation, my parents said what most parents say to a soon-to-be graduate of a jazz studies degree, like, that's great and all, but what are you going to do for benefits? And so a friend of mine had said, like, have you ever heard about a headhunter? You know what a headhunter is? I'm like, I don't know what a headhunter is. And like, well, you basically get paid to help other people find a job. And it can be kind of flexible with your schedule. I was like, this sounds perfect. So I managed to get a job early on where I could do music, I could teach, I had a studio of students, I could do gigs, and I could still do music. And then during the day gig, I was doing this recruiting. And I found out that I was actually pretty good. I was good at like listening and connecting people and really understanding things. And I had a chance to work early on with a mentor who was like one of the best recruiters. I didn't know this. He was an older gentleman. And learned so much just by listening to him. And I saw that I could do this and I could do saxophone. And I always kid, I had like 2 stacks of business cards, like Randy Knaflic, recruiter, Randy Knaflic, saxophonist. And I noticed over time, like Randy Knaflic, saxophonist stack was still kind of big. And like, oh, I got to order more of the recruiter. So I started to see that my strengths were emerging on the recruiting side. And so this happened, like there was a little bit of luck, but also a little bit of survival. And then I think a little bit of just right timing. So this is at the time of the .com boom. So I'd been doing some recruiting, and my first kind of into the corporate world on recruiting side was a company called Interworld. Don't worry, they don't exist anymore, but it was in the e-commerce space. Okay. And they were so desperate for talent, like, and I had known recruiting. And so I did this job, and I really learned, like, how do you grow and scale a company? It didn't hurt that I was able to hire like my musician friends to work with me, which was super fun. Like, because even today, like if I look back, I've hired a lot of music people, because what you learn as a musician, if you're especially in a music program, you're either like crazy to work on this 2-measure passage, or you're super disciplined and you can be focused. And I love that for hiring. So I had an opportunity to get exposure to the tech and the recruiting world. And that kind of grew through just exposure to different people that I'd hired. I started my own firm doing recruiting while in New York, gave me even more flexibility to do music. And then I think the big pivot came when the next kind of wave of tech happened. And this was probably 2004, 2005. And through really just kind of maintaining some connections and relationships, I got an opportunity to interview with some of the top tech companies. And one of them was Google. And Google offered me the opportunity to join them at a small startup in Zurich, Switzerland, with a 30-person engineering team. And so I was in New York and made the uncomfortable decision to move abroad, where I didn't speak the language, didn't know many people, and who knew if this spinoff would work out. Fast forward, it ends up being not only the most career-defining, but also life-defining, because little did I know Google was also hiring my future wife a few years later. And yeah, so I had that opportunity then to join Google at a pivotal time. In that small engineering site, I would get to be a part of growing it to be the 3rd largest engineering center for Google in the world.
Wow.
So that's up to Google. Yes. And then you're like, and at that time, there were a lot of engineers. So I'd been at Google for about almost 7 years.
Okay.
Had made it to director. This was
so we're probably around, what, 2012 now? Is that right?
Yeah. End of 2011.
Okay.
A lot of engineers are talking about this really interesting company that is far more exciting than Google. It's the only company they'd consider leaving Google for. There was a former Googler who was working at a company called Tesla, and he and I kept in touch. And he said, I need you to meet like my boss. I need you to meet this guy, Elon. I think this could be a really amazing opportunity, a big step up for you. It's in LA, not Zurich, but fortunately my future wife wasn't my future wife yet, but she was in California, so this was like a free chance to go to California. Right. So I met with this guy, Elon, and this is probably 2011. We had an interview for well over an hour, and this is when he's laying out for me a lot of the really interesting ideas that now are becoming a little more commonplace in terms of like, we need to occupy Mars. You know, we need to be a multiplanetary species. We need to be able to land rockets. And so his mission and vision of what he saw the future was just so clear that you would have been crazy not to say, I got to do it. But it wasn't an obvious choice. Google paid well. I often joke that during negotiations, Elon was like, you know, you shouldn't be arguing with me for more cash. Like, you should be arguing me for more stock. He's like, I think I can get this company to be at least 10x of what it is today. And, he was wrong. Like, I was right. It was 750x. But clearly he had a vision and knew what he could do. And so that ended up being a pretty career-defining movement for me to leave Google. But I also saw that, like, who you're aligned with becomes important. And, like, the head of HR role, I joined as the head of HR, is so important. You have that chemistry. And, like, especially at that level. And Elon definitely knew what he wanted, and so it was clear that I needed to work with a founder that I was really aligned to. So that took me to Jawbone, which is a company that some people might be familiar with. It's a company that created 3 multi-billion-dollar verticals around, audio in the ear and audio with Bluetooth, the wearables. They were the first really doing things on the wrist, and had an awesome run with them where we got to build and scale the company, grew it to be in $3 billion in valuation. raised about $1 billion in venture capital. We blew through $1 billion in venture capital, and the company, we liquidated it, pivoted to another, and yeah, it was a journey that I could have never predicted, but one that took me to so many different places, so many different environments, and gave me a chance after that time with Jawbone to really do some inventory and see how I had met a number of the goals for myself, both professionally and financially. And so Cole's business was doing well with storytelling with data. We had 3 kids. We were in San Francisco, and we made a decision that many were like, what? And we moved back to Wisconsin.
All right.
So that's my long-winded but
that
weaving throughout adventure.
It opened up a billion questions for me, and I want to talk more about storytelling with data in a moment. But I'm also curious, just when on that journey, what are what do you consider sort of the pivotal decisions, the big moves, or what are the things about you that allowed you to kind of make those decisions and be successful?
I think there's probably the 2 biggest ones that if I had to boil it down were, one, really being okay with discomfort. And I always say to people, embrace discomfort, because when you do, that is truly where the most growth comes. So if you're contemplating a couple decisions, I think if you put on the lens of which one feels like uncomfortable and why. So that I think was a really big one, because that helps filter through what maybe is the popular path to go. I would probably say second is, I am not the smartest person in the room, not the smartest person in this room.
I don't know.
But I know and try to always be close to the rooms with the smartest people. So if you do that and you find ways to actually be in that room and develop relationships and really show an interest and curiosity, I think so many more opportunities come. I think this room can actually like challenge you and grow you and give you so many more opportunities. I mean, I wouldn't have known about SpaceX if I hadn't been close to a lot of great engineers. I wouldn't have been to Google likely if I didn't really kind of embrace that discomfort. So that's kind of been a couple that have really emerged for me. I think goal setting is probably another one, is really just being clear on goals, even if they're not the specific ones that you are going to achieve, but that whole exercise of actually just writing things out. So I've done that for a very long time around just writing things out and kind of putting that vision out there to the world.
Yeah, I remember talking with you at your house once about kind of your goal setting system that you use and like kind of how it works, how you use it with your kids and so on. Can you tell people about that?
I mean, it's based on, if I really want to back up, it's based on, I was first exposed to it for, you remember infomercials that you watch at night?
Yeah.
Okay, so I was drawn into an infomercial that really changed me, and it was the Carlton Sheets No Money Down Real Estate course.
All right.
Do you know it?
I don't.
No, most people, nobody watching this has ever heard of it. I don't even think you can find it. However,
well, that's a challenge.
This I discovered at the university, and Carlton Sheets had this perfect infomercial that would draw you in, and my roommate and I would watch this, and they'd have people on the beachfront property, and they'd talk about how it changed their lives, and so we did what any infomercial watcher would do, is like we pulled our money together, sent it in, and got the course.
Wow. Okay.
We went through the course, the tapes, the cassettes, all this stuff. And by the end of it, we actually bought 0 properties. That's right, 0 properties. Right. As seen on TV, was not meant for us. But there was this chapter that Carlton Sheets talked about writing out goals, short and long-term goals. And this completely changed me, because not only did you write them out, but you would do this like visibility piece to it where you put it on your mirror. And he always would say, I can hear him say it, he's like, what did you do today to get closer to your goal? So this was my first introduction to it.
Right.
So I wrote out these goals as a college student, and it doesn't matter what the goals were, okay? But what does matter is that this was the first time I saw where you take a vision of something that doesn't exist and you write it down, and then you look at how you're going to go towards that. But bringing it back to your question, so Cole and I being at Google, we realized like Google does this almost on steroids. It's called, they use a system called Objectives and Key Results, OKRs. And it's essentially a quarterly system of assessing what are you going to go after for that quarter? What are the priorities? Not a task list, but what are the things that are going to move the needle? It's usually 3 to 5 things. And then what are the key results part of it, or what support each of those objectives? So the objective is the what, and then the key results are the how. So you might say, we're going to win the Super Bowl. That's the objective. What's the key results? Well, our defensive team is going to make sure they restrict yardage to under this per game. And then and you go down each of the teams that would support that objective. And that's how Google did it. So Larry Page would lay out the OKRs for the company, and then every single person had their own individual OKRs all in service to those. So we really got tuned to that. And to your point about like we use them with our kids, it's just a really great way of being able to hold yourself accountable. So one, Cole and I both being familiar with this. So first, with storytelling with data, she has a document. The company's over 15 years old. She has a document with OKRs since quarter one of day one of storytelling with data.
Oh, wow.
So can you imagine 15 years being able to scroll through? Because the part about OKRs that's really powerful is that you not only set this looking ahead, but then once you're into the next quarter, you go and you grade how you did on the quarter before. So when Larry Page did this, he's like not only saying, here's what we're going to do, but he's like holding the company accountable, saying, so Cole does it as a small company, Google did it as a large company, and they're like, well, why can't this work in your own household?
Right.
So we had, I'm at Jawbone, Cole's running storytelling with data, we've got 3 kids, we're in San Francisco, very busy. So we started crafting OKRs for our marriage. Because as you know, things get busy and, we should really do date night. Well, it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to actually write it down.
Right.
And then at the end, you open a bottle of wine, you sit and you say, hey, how did we do? How many date nights did we have last quarter? Let's work on it. So I think it's just a good way to hold yourself accountable. And then the kids one has worked well because, summer vacation comes, it's about to start. And we have the conversation now pretty regularly on close to the last day of school. Okay, kids, summer's coming. What do you guys, at the end of summer, when you look back, what do you want to be able to say that you did? Because it's going to go by fast.
Right.
And so they map out things around, well, I want to, for a weird period of time, it was around swimming. I want to get more proficient in this stroke. Okay, great. Or there was a language, they wanted to improve their languages that they were studying. So they're going to go to language camp. So it doesn't have to be perfect. But the habit and ritual of doing that, I think is so, so powerful.
Yeah. So there's a word you've used a bunch of times today, and it's funny because it's in my intro of you later today. So,
okay.
But I want to talk about it a little bit because I think it's so important and it's curious. You've talked a lot today about not just in the show, but you just did a guest lecture for a class.
Yep.
You talked about curiosity as part of that talk. Tell me why you think curiosity is so important.
I think curiosity helps you to really be more empathetic because through your questioning, you can get a perspective that you can't necessarily get just at face value. And I often get, you could probably ask Cole about this, but sometimes my curiosity might come across as almost like instigating or interrogating but I truly have to stop people because if there's a topic, maybe it's a hot political topic, and I'm really trying to understand how somebody could think in the way that they do. I have no idea, but I'm curious, how did you come to that thinking? So you could imagine, if not phrased right, how did you come to that thinking? Could be adversarial, but so I really try to work on the curiosity piece to understand, because I think once you do that, it just makes things so much easier, because I don't think people are necessarily right or wrong. They're coming to it with their experiences. So if you work to understand it, you might not still agree, but you have such a better perspective. And so I try to do that with the kids as well, is to always be curious. And so even if it's like, well, this kid at school, is such a bully, was doing that, I say, well, what do you think? Let's imagine, what do you think their life is like? Or maybe what might they be going through? And so I think curiosity not only is super interesting because you can learn so much more and expand your world, but it gives you a level of empathy because you're coming in from a better position of knowledge.
I very much agree, and you know this. We've got you've met her. I believe we have an empathy expert on campus, Alice Jane. She's been on the show before, and very much agree that part of the reason to. In fact, I consider curiosity at this point sort of a super virtue, right? I mean, it's just one of these qualities that makes you happier, helps you learn more, minimizes bias, like it does all sorts of things for the exact reason you're describing. So I'm curious, and I know we're gonna run out of time soon, but I wanna I want to ask you my 3 questions
Yep.
that I ask everybody, but also I want to talk about a little bit because you talked about a mentor as part of this, and I want to I want to approach this from 2 perspectives with you. I'm just realizing I have so many more questions.
Okay.
But okay.
Yeah.
But
We'll do part 2.
Yes. But the first question is, who have been some of the big mentors in your life that have been really important, and how was it that they were important to you?
Well, if I go way back, I mean, I wouldn't have pursued music or played saxophone if it wasn't for my grandfather. And I think he did 2 things that were really inspiring for me that I see now are evident. So one, he was a storyteller, and I didn't realize it, but we'd go over to his house and be like, "Hey, Grandpa, tell us that story about the time Al Capone walked into where you were working and you took your paycheck and left." And he'd have all these stories, and he didn't mind repeating these stories. And I realize now, because I've had such an amazing, adventurous journey so far, that I have all these stories, and I don't mind sharing them because there's lessons in them, and people like to hear them. So that was the first part for him that really had an impact. But I think the second part was, I was ready because, rentals for the saxophone were getting expensive, and my parents were like, well, we should maybe just take a break from it. And I'll remember one Saturday morning, my grandfather called me, which was kind of rare, and he's like, "I'm coming to pick you up." And I'm like, "Well, okay." He picked me up, and we drove over in Milwaukee on the south side to Lincoln House of Music, and he had arranged to buy me my first saxophone.
Wow.
And so I was like, I couldn't believe it. And he was always so proud of my playing, and then I continued it and that. And he would always talk about music in a way that he said, "Randy, they can take everything away from you, but as long as you have your music, you'll always have that." And that really stuck with me. So it'd be remiss if I didn't mention him. I think I talked about like my start in recruiting. So Don Franklin was this really successful recruiter, and I just loved listening to him, his style, the way he talked. He would bring me into meetings. And again, I'm just this like recent sax grad who's like figuring it out. And he'd bring me into these high-powered meetings where we're dealing with these guys who are making $500,000 and some like 20-year-old kids like helping to decide his future. But he didn't care. He at least saw in me, I think, potential. And he was really inspirational in that way. And then at Google, I had some really great mentors. There was a vice president of engineering, Nelson Matos, who we're still very good friends today. And he's Brazilian, and he would always tell me these things like, "You Americans, you don't know how to vacation." He's like, and so I went on vacation with him and his wife and a bunch of others on a boat one time. And he's like, "Randy," and this really stuck with me. He says, "If you can't go on a 2 or 3 or 4 week vacation, that's your fault." He says, "That means you haven't built the systems to allow you to do that." So I always learned to take long vacations, and that was because of Nelson and a lot of how he taught me to find this balance between work and life.
That's amazing. Love that. Let's talk a little bit about some of the mentoring you do now, because that's the other side of this question, is that you serve as a mentor to a lot of people.
Sure. I mean, I try to, time is the most precious commodity I have, but I enjoy being connected with your advisory group, for example. That's been really
very thankful for that.
That's been super fulfilling. I like to do where I work with startups. So since leaving Jawbone, I mainly have been doing advisory work to a number of different startups where I meet with them regularly, either the CEO or founder or perhaps the head of HR, and leverage a lot of the experiences that I had to help them through what they're going through. So I do a number of advisory roles in that capacity, and then just generally try to be helpful. There was a question today about, what do you do with applications getting filtered out by AI bots when you're trying to get into a company? And so I love that, because in one room it was like 30, 40 people, and I instantly said, stop sending in applications. Make connections. Find who's working at that company. Put all your energy into having 10 people at that company, and then ultimately you find a way for them to make an introduction.
Yeah.
So I try to do that as well.
Yeah. Very good. Let's talk a little bit about storytelling with data before we get to the 3 questions.
Great.
So we have people. There is another episode with Cole where we talk about quite a bit of that. So, but I want people who are just watching this one to learn more about what you're doing there.
Sure. Storytelling with data. We're a small but mighty company that's been around since Cole created this course at Google. She essentially created this to help all the different functions within Google learn how to better communicate with their data, and not just show data, but find the way to drive the narrative into it so that you can get the action you're looking for. And so the company's been around for over 15 years, which is crazy. The cornerstone of it, I don't know if Cole mentioned this in there, but she has a best-selling book, Storytelling with Data, translated into 20, 30 languages.
She did mention the book. She didn't mention best-selling. That she needs,
Okay.
we need a hype squad.
Did she
for
mention that I was the one who said she should write a book?
Oh, no.
Okay, well, that's exclusive. And
Yes.
but if she's watching this,
Yeah.
we got to figure out a way to edit that. I don't know how we do that. But no, she has 5 books. She's an amazing author. And we have a team that goes to organizations and helps different functions within those organizations communicate better with data, teaching the lessons that are in the book. And so the really powerful thing is we take the company's examples, apply the lessons, and show like the makeover. Like everybody loves a makeover. And so people can really learn seeing their own data. And then we do a lot of public workshops, virtual workshops. So people from all over the world join in to hear from the team and learn these lessons in either like 2 or 4 hour sessions. And then we get to do fun stuff so that we're reaching people at different ways. We have a podcast, we have a YouTube channel, we have a children's book, Daphne Draws Data.
Yep.
So it's really fun. And, to be able to work with your spouse, I said, it's a good thing I really like you because we spend a lot of time together, but we really work well together. And so I spent some time being able to help build a lot of the systems for the company and strategy. And so that's a really important part.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. And so enjoy your work there and have read a couple of the books and certainly listened to the podcasts and have watched some of the, as I'll allude to later, I've learned a lot from you. And I've appreciated that. So,
Thanks.
let's start with the 3 questions.
Sure.
Number 1, who is it you hope you're inspiring?
I hope I'm inspiring people who feel like they're not on the path or they know exactly where they're going. Because I think I'm a bit of the poster child of you again, my career probably makes more sense in reverse. So I hope I'm inspiring those people who feel like they're on that same journey and that they can see that you don't have to have it all mapped out for it to work out.
Yeah. Is there a book or a movie or a TV show or some piece of art that you that was transformative to you that you want to share with other people?
Clearly, if Carlton Sheets' course is available, you should check out the 3rd chapter on goals. It's short, but it was so powerful. But I do think Tim Ferriss's The 4-Hour Workweek, I seem to read it at the right time in my career, where he also talks a lot about goal setting and that. And it's not about I only want to work 4 hours, but he really imparted some lessons that I think were important around this idea that you don't have to follow this linear path. Like you work, and then, you retire, and then you do stuff. Like he talked about mini retirements. He talked about organizing and designing your life the way that you want it. So I really try to embody that, the way we travel, the way we expose the kids to our own entrepreneurship with storytelling with data. So I have to admit, I think that book was really powerful for me.
Oh, that is excellent. What is a piece of advice you would want to give someone who hadn't yet found their way?
If you haven't yet found your way, it's okay. Because in the end, it's about making choices. And I see too many people saying, I'm not sure what the right thing is going to be. And what I like to say is don't worry about the right thing, just choose a thing. And too often people stay so much in their head. It's like, get out of your head, like just do. Because so much more will be revealed to you if you just do and put yourself in that position. But it's remarkable how many people I've met, how many successful people I've met whose path has not been at all the path you would have thought they would have taken. And so it's hard to tell someone that who's in that spot. But all I can say is just keep moving forward and just keep experiencing so that you can find a way to see what's going to be next and available to you.
Very good. Where can people find out more about you, about storytelling with data, all that?
Check out storytellingwithdata.com. I don't know how much you need to find out about me. I've been working on the book that's never ending, so maybe one day you'll see a book coming out with all these fun stories. But I'm on LinkedIn. Connect with me. Just look for Randy, Google, SpaceX. I think I'm the only one who has those 3.
Wow.
But if not, maybe somebody else has risen to the top. But it's been super fun, and appreciate the opportunity to talk.
Thanks so much for being here. This has been great. All right, I am here with Camilla Doherty. Camilla, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you, Ryan?
I am doing really, really well. We should talk about why you are back, because you were here as our student, You ran social media for cause for a while. Then you abandoned us,
I did.
i.e. you graduated, and we let you go on to bigger and better things, or other things, I should say. But now you're back, so tell people why you're back. You are back because you have a job with us.
Yes, I am back because I have taken over the position of engagement coordinator for Cause.
Yes, which is fantastic. So people knew Rachel. Rachel was on the show a couple times. Rachel also went on to other things, and now you are back here to help us out and to run community engagement for the college and for UWGB.
Yes.
Yeah. And a big part of that is Good Cause Productions, and serving as the production manager here for a lot of what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
very excited.
Are you excited? Today's
I
your
am.
first day, and
Yes.
what I did is I threw you in front of the camera immediately.
Yeah, so we'll see how long I last, if this is going to be a pattern.
Excellent. Love it. Okay. Very good. All right. So part of your responsibilities, this is listed under other duties as assigned in your job description, is to read the outro for the episode. Are you ready to read the outro?
I'm ready.
Good. Please take us home.
Intern is brought to you by Good Cause Productions at the University of Wisconsin-Green Bay. The executive producer is Ryan Martin, and the production manager is Amanda Wildenberg. The engineer for today's episode is Gus Schuessler, with support from Justin Cavally and Media Arts and Production Program. And that music you love so much was arranged by our very own Michelle McQuaid-Dewhurst. Special thanks also to our guest, Randy Knaflic. If you haven't already, please make sure to rate, review, and subscribe to us on your favorite podcast platform. Keep being amazing.